Good morning, good evening, good day, good wherever you are. Welcome to It's All About the Grey podcast. I'm privileged and honoured yet again to steal 1 hour of Sean's time, the new baby daddy that's just rolled out, and the man behind the brand with Leelo and his partner Beth. Sean, thanks so much for making the time, mate.
Thanks for having me back. And yeah, the baby daddy, that's my new name. Got a new baby. It's not just the business now. So
That's
yeah,
it.
probably the new talking point today.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. And we were just talking about that earlier, right? About that change of purpose, and
Yeah.
you know, when you're growing a business, it's all in.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're growing a baby, and it really just puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. It is nuts. It obviously he's jumped straight to the top of the priority list, and the business is kind of not taking a back step, but you know, he comes first, which is just crazy. But of course, that's how it has to be. And you know, the business is still important, but little man's even more important. So
Yeah.
but it's given me more purpose, more drive, because you know, the business is the foundation to our life. It's what supports us. So you know, it's driving me to go even harder. You know, I'm not going to take the foot off the gas. That's for sure.
That's it. And that's exactly right. And as I said, you know, heaps of people have obviously been in somewhat similar positions. You're a bit unique, I think, because your brand has just grown,
Yep.
you know, outrageously for the last few years. But being able to balance that purpose of, well, how does this fit into business? And, you know, the business gives you that financial support
Yep.
for the family. So, you know, priorities are critical.
Mhm.
Allocation of time is probably now even more critical, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and you know, I think there's a question I asked before, but that morning routine's probably changed a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. There's definitely no more procrastinating. Once you got a spare
Yeah.
minute, you're using it you're using it wisely. You're not dilly dallying or anything like that. But yeah, no day's the same for me. It definitely starts off with getting up in the morning, getting the little man ready, rolling down to the cafe, having a coffee, and then looking at my calendar and jumping into the meetings that I have, and you know, putting out the little spot fires and stuff as you do as a brand owner. You know, there's not a day that goes by where there isn't a problem that you have to solve. And you just kind of go out the day. But yeah, there's definitely that kind of focus shift where I'm jumping between looking after him, jumping into the business, and that's become challenging. But I think after, you know, the first 3 months of being at it, you know, it starts to just become normal, and you start to just balance things out. You know, it's
Just
one of
make
those
it
things.
work.
Just make it work. That's it. Just crack on.
So, mate, we last caught up, must have been a year ago now.
Yep.
And you know, we're just chatting a bit earlier, but you know, tell us what's happened. It's been a big 12 months from what I can see anyway.
100%. It's been a big 12 months. And it's funny if we kind of rewind back to the end of 2024, and I found out that obviously Beth was pregnant and that we'd have the little man coming, and that's quite a scary moment when it's unplanned, for sure.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of thoughts in my head of, you know, will I need to kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit? Where's my focus going to shift? All those kind of things run through your head. But then also that thing of, you know, now is the time to go hard before the baby comes. So set things up, set the foundations up to ensure that the team are ready to kind of rumble as well with you. And that was a big thing that Beth and I consciously went into 2025, where we kind of pulled away from the trenches a little bit. Like, we didn't want to be as hands-on. We wanted to allow the team to really start to take control of the business, because, you know, it's quite challenging as a founder to kind of you know, let go of certain things. You want to kind of keep a tight grip on them, but we did that at the start of 2025. Started not going into the office straight away at 7:30 in the morning, leaving last and all that. We just we started with just halving our day. We'd come in a little bit late, let the team kind of get in before us and be able to problem solve without us. I think that was the biggest shift. And it's disruptive and it's scary and it's uncomfortable at first, you know, because your team's so used to just being able to look to their left. Hey, Sean, hey, Beth, you know, how do I solve this problem? And suddenly you're not there, and they've got to kind of really use their initiative. And over, you know, a few months later, you just start to see the impact of that. And it was really, really interesting to see, like, people start to use their initiative, start to problem solve, start to become comfortable when problems arise. Because I think as business owners, we almost become numb to problems. You're just like, oh, it's just another day, we'll just solve that. If it's not going to sink the ship, you just move forward. Whereas for some of your team, it can be quite overwhelming. And I think that it was really nice to see some of those team members step up and really, you know, take to that really well. So that was probably one of the biggest shifts that we did. And just like, you know, closer and closer to the due date of the baby being born, we just like wound down our time in the office more and more and just started to work from home a little bit. And, you know, you start working on the business, not in the business. And, yeah, I think that it's been a really big benefit.
It's good. So obviously the last 12 months, the baby's come on board. There's been a lot of probably internal change, but the business is still going.
Continue to grow.
What's the secret? What's going on?
Yeah, it's exceeded all my, like every year I go into it with, you know, revenue targets, profit targets and stuff like that. And I was pretty conservative this year for the first time ever. Usually I'm like, I'm going to double. And we have year on year, we've doubled or more than doubled. Whereas this year was the first year that I went into it kind of going, I'm going to set my goals a little bit more conservative, knowing that there was going to be some big changes and to not put too much pressure on myself, the team and the systems. But you quickly realize that when you hit a certain point in business, the compounding effect almost, it's just so strong that you can't stop it from growing, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And that's been such a nice thing to see. The output from, you know, that kind of input side has exceeded my expectations. So we're going to probably blow out that revenue target by over 5 million. Whoa. So set the target for like 12.5 mil. We'll probably do around 17.5, which is a decent result. I'm really happy with that now that we're on the back end of the year and looking back and going, we're going to hit those numbers. I'm very confident. So nuts. Yeah,
mate,
crazy.
It must be so rewarding to step back, as you said, that transition from in the business to on the business, but you can step back and just go, I created a beast here.
Yeah, that's it. That's what happens when you just stay in the game. You keep doing your thing, stay true to, you know, your market and your industry, and just keep doing what works and not you know, going outside of your lane. That's one thing that we've done. We've stuck in our lane. We've kept doing what works and kept our eye on the ball. You know, I think it's 80-20. 80% of your focus goes to what works, and then you're testing with 20% of your focus on newness and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. And I think that if you said like, well, what's the secret? The secret is really just staying in the game, and it's the compounding effect. If you stay in the game, you're bringing in more customers, you're filling up that bucket, and more people talk about your business, and more people are familiar with the product, and it goes from, you know, just a business to a brand. I think that's the biggest transition that I've seen over the last probably 18 months, is that we've really solidified a brand, and there are a lot of women across Australia that now know what Leelo is. I don't have to explain it anymore, which is beautiful.
100%, mate. Everyone at the back's asking for the discount code.
Yeah.
So talking about growing from a business to a brand, what are probably some of the, I'll call them invisible costs. It may not be necessarily the right word, but what is that invisible cost that somehow exists in there that's allowed you to transform business to brand? Like, is it the invisible cost? Is it your time and effort behind the scenes making things work, or there's other things that just happen? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of things that you can't measure. You can't put a dollar value on it or be like, oh, there's an exact ROI on that. But I think when it comes to brand, in my head, it's quite self-explanatory. It's like, you know, it's how you know, your business is perceived and where it aligns. So there's so many little things that you do over the years to create that alignment, where, you know, for us, it was to really double down on the Pilates industry and make sure that we were seen in the Pilates studio. But then also trying to align with, you know, things that are maybe a little bit more like, what's the word for it? I don't know if it's upper class or anything like that. Maybe that's too...
More premium?
Yeah, a bit more premium, you know. So even soon we're going to be doing a Pilates event at Mercedes-Benz dealership, you know. Oh, so cool. That's a brand play, right? It's trying to align with something that's a bit more premium, a bit more luxury, and then that's the perception of the consumer and the market on your brand, right? Whereas if you go the other way and maybe you collaborate or do things that are a little bit lower end, then that's where you're seen. I think that that's such an important thing to think when it comes to branding and as a business owner, is like, you know, who are you associated with? Who wears your stuff? Where are you seen? You know, is it in the Pilates studio, on the coastal walk, in this suburb? What is it? You know what I mean? And that's what ties in and creates the value. And that's why someone is willing to, you know, spend their hard-earned money with you, right? And that's why, you know, you put a price tag on certain things. And sometimes it's confusing to be like, well, why are you going to spend $5,000 on a Louis Vuitton bag? That's brand. You know, correct. It only costs a few $100s to make the bag. Most, that price tag comes from brand. It's the association. It's who's wearing it, who's using it, where's it seen, and that's so important.
I couldn't agree more. And I think then it's into the customer demographics, and you know, we adopt a similar strategy, and it's, you know, drink where they drink or eat what they eat, and you know, align yourselves and walk and talk like them and dress like them, and eventually you are now them. Do you know what I mean? And as long as you position yourself like that, eventually, you can develop a brand, and obviously you've done an exceptional job at it. So 100%. Your tactic or I guess your playbook is definitely coming to be. So in saying all that, like when you did first engage predominantly in socials, at least that's from an outsider looking in, I felt that was really your target market initially, where it was all driven on social media presence. What probably surprised you most about TikTok or Instagram or your socials? Like when you're building the business, you've gone from business to brand, as we've talked about, but is there anything or feedback you received from that audience that surprised you?
Yeah, definitely. I think social media is such a challenge because you're always at the whim of the algorithm. So you've got to really know your people and who you're targeting. And it's not all about going viral, because going viral can sometimes mean that you're just hitting a bunch of random people that don't really mean anything to the business, and they're not going to buy the product. So it's so important to really know who your customer is and who you want your content to go to. And I think you get that feedback loop through the algorithm. And over the years, we've seen the social media algorithms change so much. And that's been challenging. It's been one of the hardest things, trying to keep your engagement up. And I think that what you always have to tie back to when you're creating content on social media is just knowing who you're speaking to and ensuring that you're kind of connecting with them and making them want to stop and watch that piece of content or look at that piece of content and engage with it. So sharing it to a friend, commenting on it, saving that post so they can kind of look at it again. Those things are all the like little 1%ers. And sometimes you do fall off a little bit from that, and then you've got to kind of start to draw back to it and just like train the algorithm to be like, all right, you know, if it's the Pilates girl for us, it's like, how do we get in front of them? So we're trying to just be so relatable to them. And it's not just about, you know, throwing the product in their face. It's all about kind of building, you know, around their lifestyle and what's relatable to them. And that's something that we've really lent into. So it's things as, you know, cliche as like matcha, you know, all the Pilates girls are drinking matcha, and we're not the only brand that's jumping on that bandwagon. We're pretty early to it, but it's all those little things: drinking matcha at the cafe, going on a coastal walk, going to Pilates in the morning, and then just creating content that's relatable to those kind of lifestyle things.
Yeah, there you go.
Hopefully that answers.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. I think you're right. It's just training and understanding what it is that they do, and again, back to building a brand rather than just building a business. So obviously your content strategies are evolving rapidly, and I guess the question I've got to ask is, how do you manage the challenge of staying authentic to Leelo? There was an article recently that I came across, and it was about, you know, the style of leggings, and you know, you're going to stay true to a traditional style of legging, whereas there's all these variants. Just run me through how you can, I guess, remain authentic when talking about trends and marches and
there's so many trends going on, and I think that that's challenging the fashion scene. So you do have to kind of stay true to yourself, but also understand that some brands grow with their audience, and then at some point that's going to cost them a lot. We're seeing it with big brands like Lululemon, who just grew with their customer. They didn't really, they kind of forgot about Gen Z and the younger demographic, and now they're paying the price. We're seeing their share price tank and stuff. So I'm taking notes from that. And of course you need to stay true to yourself, stay authentic to your brand, but you also need to kind of watch what Gen Z and the younger demographics are doing, because they're the ones that are kind of setting the tone. And they're the ones that are going to eventually become your customer. They're the ones that are going to be spending the money. So you can't neglect them. You've still got to resonate with them a little bit, but also then not put off your maybe older customer that might be a millennial or something like that. So there's a balance of the two. And again, I always draw back to 80-20, and maybe you're putting 20% of your focus into that Gen Z demographic and 80% into millennials, or vice versa. It just depends on what your goal is there. So for us, we don't want to be something for everyone. You know, I think that businesses that do that die very fast. You need to know your person, and we definitely want to stay true to ourselves. So as you said, you know, at the moment, the whole agenda at the moment with the Gen Z is that The traditional legging is becoming like uncool. It's a boomer product, this and that. I don't buy into it fully. I do appreciate what they're saying, but I think at the end of the day, like a pair of leggings is a functional form-fitting product and it serves a purpose. It's not just a fashion item. And the funny thing is it became a fashion item during COVID because, you know, women just wanted to wear it from morning to night throughout their entire day. And I think that that's just going to change, and that's what happens in business. Things change. It's like a pendulum. So we're just following that, and, you know, we'll keep selling leggings and women will wear them to the gym. But what we might find is they take them off after their workout, then they'll jump into more of a loose fitting baggy garment that's a bit more comfortable and go on throughout their day. Whereas instead of, you know, wearing the leggings the whole day. So, yeah.
So then how do you find, obviously when you're developing products, how do you find the balance between design or practicality or sustainability? Is there an art to it, or is it, well, let's actually probably try and understand what's working, 80-20 rule. There's a trade-off, we can accept that. How do you go about, you know, product development?
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, and the 80-20 rule definitely comes into play. I think that, you know, you could look at, say, if you wanted to go down the eco-friendly route of using cotton and wool and bamboo and these kind of fibers, that's very challenging to bring into, say, the functional product like a pair of leggings that needs to have compression, it needs to be durable. So you just got to be realistic there, right? You can't force it. And some brands try and force it, and then they'll sell it to the consumer. The consumer wears it, it gets a hole in it, or it doesn't wear well in the gym. You know, it's not sweat proof, whatever the problem is, and then just either gets thrown in the bin or into landfill. And that's not, you know, that's not eco-friendly, right? So you've got to be very practical when it comes to what a fabric can do with a garment. So we definitely draw back to that, and we understand that. So if you're going to use those fabrics, you make sure that you're designing it for a product that it's suitable for. So if you're going eco-friendly, looser fitting garments like a sweatpant, a track pant, a t-shirt, a knit sweater, those kind of things work, but don't try and force it in a pair of leggings. I mean, maybe eventually there'll be technology that allows that, and we're keeping our eye on that, but for now it doesn't exist. So you have to be very practical, because at the end of the day, then it's just greenwashing, right? If you're trying to force the consumer into this agenda of, oh, we've got this eco-friendly pair of leggings, blah, blah, blah. Nah, like that's not eco-friendly, because it'll go into landfill or sit in the bottom of a drawer.
Yeah, and there's one thing, again, I've noticed, you know, with yourselves as a brand, I do see you travel a lot and you're always out there looking at different things. Have you ever encountered any of these supply chain issues that promised the world and under-delivered?
We've been pretty lucky, to be honest. Okay. So obviously a lot of China trips happen now, and we've got some really tight-knit relationships with our supply chain over there. And that's been really, really cool to keep building on that. And we've been, as I said, very, very lucky to not be burnt. We've got quite a tight-knit supply chain. We don't work with a ton of suppliers. Some brands really have like a huge network of suppliers. We've got like 3 main ones. We've built relationships with them. We trust each other, and that's super, super important. And getting over to China and doing those trips is insane, like what you can achieve. And it's obviously becoming quite mainstream now. We're seeing it all over social media. Every brand owner's doing the Guangzhou trip. They're showing it off. They're staying at the Four Seasons Hotel. I like to think that I was doing that quite early on. As soon as the borders opened up and we could travel, I was straight over there doing that and figuring it out on the fly. But now over the last few years, there's a lot of people just spending a lot of time over there in the fabric markets, and you get so much done compared to what you can do back here at home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been to China myself recently,
it's
and
incredible, hey.
And even post COVID, you know, getting effectively approval to get into China was like out of control. Now it's free, you know, free to get in, free to get out. But back then, mate, it was a bit of a ghost town. Like I'll say this, like, you're like the white Australian guy, and you're walking in, and they're like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean?
Crazy,
It's crazy, but yeah, it clearly is just the place to be to grow businesses, particularly like yours, right?
Yeah. It's almost like stepping into the future as well. It's like, especially if you go to a place like Shenzhen, Shanghai. Shenzhen's nuts, you know, they're delivering food with like drones and shit. It's just like, what do you mean?
It's a different, like even the EVs and things like that over there.
Everything's electric.
It's crazy. So speaking of innovation, and whether or not you want to share, not too much, because I understand you're in a brand positioning point of view at the moment. But what is the biggest product innovation or brand pivot that you're working on
Yep.
that the audience may not yet know about?
I don't know if there's any like secrets or anything to this. Obviously, there's a huge AI revolution at the moment, and one of the biggest shifts in business and brand is the content output that you need to get the return on investment. Now it's a content game. We're in a creator world at the moment. The creators are winning. So as a brand, you've got to really be able to create this machine that can just put out so much content, ads, social media content. You're creating these pillars within your marketing strategy now, and it's created a whole new complexity to business. But again, it's the businesses that can adapt and can kind of conform to that will win, and you can leverage AI to do that now. So I think that there's a huge thing at the moment between, like your typical models and your content creators, and probably not having a lot of context from the brand perspective, which I have now from being in the ad account, seeing how much content needs to go in. And say you've got these agencies that are managing the creators, and their rates that they're charging for like one ad is just broken. It doesn't make sense anymore. Then there's going to be a huge change that happens over the next 6 months. That's what I'm predicting, is that a lot of these creators are going to have to conform to that and be able to provide a hell of a lot more for that same price point. It's no longer being like, all right, I'm charging $1,000 for one ad creative or one post. Doesn't work anymore. You need to give the brand 20 posts, and you can use AI to chop and change that piece of content. So it's no longer about, it took me all day to create this one piece of content. That's bullshit. You can create 20, 30, 40, 50 pieces of content in 1 hour by leveraging AI, chopping and changing, doing these things, editing way faster. So massive discrepancy between some creators and brands. So I think that alignment needs to happen very quickly between the two.
And speaking of which, do you ever feel streaming's quite big in the US at the moment?
Yep.
Not yet taken off in Oz. Do you see that as a place of opportunity? Like the stuff that, and it pops up, it must be my algorithm, but you got like Aiden Rosses and Neons, which is, don't get me started, but a whole different generation to I am. But when you actually sit back and reflect at what they're building and the audience they're encompassing, and things that Kai Cenat, whoever it is, like, do you see that coming into Oz?
It'll come to Australia, absolutely. And we've seen it in the US, and I love it because it's so authentic and unscripted, because you're live, right? You can't stage that shit. So it's on the fly. Whatever you say live, you're held accountable for. We've seen people get cancelled for saying dumb shit on lives because you can't go back and edit that out or whatever. So I love that because it does hold people accountable to what they're putting out on the internet. And it's very, very authentic, and that's what social media thrives off now. It's no longer polished and over edited. It's raw, it's scrappy, and we'll see that kind of come into the Australian market. Obviously TikTok Shop's a huge one where a lot of people are selling live. A lot of businesses are leveraging kind of affiliate and ambassador programs and just printing money. There's these 18-year-olds that are becoming overnight millionaires by leveraging TikTok Shop and having commissions on what they're selling through these viral videos. They'll put up a video or they'll go live and they'll sell just hundreds of thousands of units of a product and take a clip of that and just make so much money. And I think that is coming to Australia at some point. TikTok keeps talking about it, and we're not sure exactly when it will happen, but when it does, it'll shake things up. But luckily enough, we get to watch what the US does, right? And I think, again, as a business, you've got to kind of write down the notes and be prepared for it. So I'm already talking to my team about, how can we leverage that? How can we be ahead of it? So we're building out, already our little army of ambassadors, which is, really interesting.
Yeah, and that's really where I was leading to, is that they do these brand collaborations now, and it's, as I said, it's just amazing. Like, from a business perspective, it's amazing to see what they're doing. If I'm not mistaken, one of the streamers has actually openly said, I'm stepping away from streaming now, and I suspect that's because of the brand he's built outside of streaming, right? So it'd be interesting to see how it integrates with business and businesses like yours, and how you can leverage it, like building brand, two totally different beasts, right?
100%.
So Sean, obviously you're now, I guess it's probably fair to say you're in a bit of a leadership change mindset. how have you made that change? And I guess what's probably one of the biggest lessons you've learnt from, the introduction of your son, importantly, but even as the business evolved, at some point this was going to happen. So I know it's probably a bit of a shift of dial of where we were heading on that topic, but I'm interested to understand how your leadership mindset has changed and the impact it's created.
Yeah, still figuring it out, that's for sure. But I'm becoming more and more comfortable as a leader. I think that over the last few years, I've been thrown in the deep end of kind of building a team, and being comfortable to have meetings, have hard conversations, set expectations, and I'm still figuring it out at the moment. I think that, setting expectations, very clear expectations is so important. Communication is key. And it's something that I've kind of learned on the fly and made mistakes and have started to try and patch that up along the way. But you very quickly realize that if you don't have clear expectations and clear communication with your team, the line gets blurred and you can't be upset at anyone for being upset at you for certain things like that, where, that communication breaks down. So that's kind of the key thing that I focus on now, is setting expectations, communicating that to the team and ensuring that they're on the same page as me, because, you can't just assume. You can't assume that people understand what you expect out of them from a job role or completing a task or a project like that. So yeah, super, super important. And then, it carries across to my entire life. Obviously becoming a dad now, your little son is emulating everything that you're doing. He's only 3 months old, but it's funny, Beth and I kind of laugh about it, but he's definitely, I might be biased, but I think I am his favorite person at the moment. Hey, like, I walk into the room and his face just lights up and he smiles and he's laughing and he's just like, it's like he's obsessed with me. And I'm like, holy shit, like, it's beautiful, but it's scary at the same time, because I know that that's not going to go away. And as the years go on, he's going to watch what I do. And I do have to kind of take on that thing of being, a role model, a leader, and making sure that I set a good example. And it's funny, in the Uber here, bit of a side note, but I had a really good conversation with the Uber driver. He was 70 years old and he was giving me some tips on being a dad, and they were, incredible. I love Uber discussions, and little pro tip, if you're in the position to do so, book Uber Comfort or book Uber Black, because the drivers will typically be these like retired guys that have done a lot and they have so much insight. So like that $20 Uber ride, like, man, it was so valuable for me. The things that he was talking about, he was saying that 7 and up is just like crazy. I think there's a book called 7 and Up, and essentially it talks about, I think they did a study. It's been going for like over 60 years or 70 years, this study. And they took these young men or boys at 7 years old, took down notes on like, how they were, like the psychology and the little things that they do. And then I think they went at 15 and studied that, and then 21. And now I think those men are like in their late 60s, and literally it flashes back to when they're 7, and like things that they were doing as a 7-year-old have impacted their entire life. Wow. So it's pivotal from the age of, I think, 2 to 7. You're building the foundation for, your kids, which is crazy. So I think that it's so important for me to be self-aware in those moments and know that he's looking up to me, he's emulating me. So from, if I say certain things, do certain things from 2 to 7, it's going to impact the rest of his life, which is just wild to think, isn't it? Scary, because I think that, before having a kid, you just, you do whatever. And I'm such a misfit. I love to break the rules and be scrappy and this and that. I still will do that to some aspect, but cautious of how that will impact him, because his context of, dad's doing this, dad's doing that, it's not just scrappy or being a misfit in his eyes, right? As a 2-year-old or all the way up to 7, he doesn't understand it. He just sees it and thinks that's normal. So it's going to be so, so important.
I 100%. And probably coming back to, your leadership style, even in business as well. Yep. I can attest to bringing, at least in professional services, you bring an undergraduate or a graduate through the firm. And I still, even, the position I'm in today, I still remember the way my manager conducted herself and how she would teach me. And I still use effectively the same skill set or the same tools with all my team today. I feel like that first few years of life or life in business is so critical, and your leadership style will it creates domino effect, right? And it goes all the way down the chain from literally from the moment I step out that lift and greet the receptionist to the moment I'm finishing up and saying goodbye to the team. It's just those small 1%ers that just make that world of difference. And then you'll see all the staff start to come in. Oh, good morning.
Yep.
How are you? Let me grab that.
It has a flow-on effect. It sets the tone from the
critical.
top down, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's so important, and I think it's something that I'm learning very, very quickly. Yeah, because you pay the price if you don't do it right? Like it's good and bad. You do the wrong thing, and it creates a bad environment. The culture breaks down. You do the right thing, and then it has a positive effect. So, yeah.
So what's the culture at Leelo? We're all desperate to know what's it like working behind the brand.
Yeah, well, it's a small team. I think it blows everyone's minds knowing that we're doing the revenue figures that we are with such a small team. It's only myself and Beth, and then I've got Marissa, Chloe, and Nikki doing full-time hours, so 3 full-timers on top of us. So it's a team of 5 doing full-time work. And as a business, it's going to do 17.5 mil this year. That's pretty tight team.
That is amazing.
So we definitely have the culture of get it done. That's for sure, but also try and have fun. Like fashion's meant to be fun. It does have operational complexities, and I think that as you get into a clothing brand business, you realize that it's not just about marketing, creating cool clothes and selling it. There's a lot of operational stuff, but at the moment, we're doing a few shifts to allow ourselves to outsource some of the less enjoyable stuff so that that core team can focus on things like marketing, product development, community events, and the fun stuff that actually creates growth, which is really exciting. So that's probably going to be something that we'll see over the next 6 months that the team will really be able to kind of dive into, because up until this time, a lot of the team members have kind of been spread across quite a lot of different roles, and we've been very resourceful in that way. And that's how we've been able to run such a lean team and get so much done, is because, I've got a manager that'll help with like wholesale and doing the David Jones and Style Runner stuff. But then she's also helping to manage the warehouse team and, problem solve on that side. So soon I'll be able to, I'm in the process now of being able to like take that away from her so that she can go all in on stuff like, helping the wholesale side of the business, ensuring that Style Runner and David Jones are being guided in the right way and that they're increasing their buys, which is really, really exciting because that creates growth, right? So,
absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of which, the last time we were on the potty, we weren't in David Jones.
Yeah.
So let's do a very, very quick high level deep dive into that, and how did it come to be? What was different? What allowed you to stand out? I saw a happy dad, proud father moment. You were with your son in David Jones holding up a garment. It was such a powerful photo.
Yeah, very cool.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's followed a similar pathway to almost every wholesale contract that we've landed, which has been me doing a bit of guerrilla marketing and kind of shaking things up, sending cold emails, DMs, jumping on LinkedIn, doing posts, and just trying to get the attention of buyers. And David Jones was always on my radar. It was like Style Runner top of the list. David Jones was the other one. Like, at that point, between the two of them, you got over almost 80 stores across Australia. So that gives you a really good physical presence across the entire of Australia. So that was the goal, was to get David Jones after Style Runner, and didn't have a lot of luck at first, like reaching out, no response, and then finally managed to get the attention of a senior buyer over there on LinkedIn, and got her email contact and got one of my team members to reach out and send through the lookbook and the line sheet and stuff like that. And it kind of just flowed on from there. And luckily now that we're in the position that we are, where we're in Style Runner, we're doing really well, the brand's building, it's not a hard sell anymore, you know what I mean? Like we're already on their radar. It's just about kind of planting the seed and getting it across the line. And yeah, made it happen, flew out to Melbourne, had a meeting with them. They were super keen, and now we're obviously rolling out, and very, very exciting.
Is it challenging getting? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's more catalog buying, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So is it challenging to break into the catalog, or is it you're probably only very early days, or is it more challenging to stay relevant in the catalog?
Yeah, I would say that it's kind of breaking into the catalog. You've got to balance things out because you've got to know the David Jones customer. So you kind of align with them. And luckily, Leelo's got to the point where our catalog is quite large. So we've got a lot of products that do align with obviously their customer and what they want to buy. But we also guide those buyers in the right way too, because we kind of have a lot of insight into what the consumer wants currently as far as athleisure goes. So we try and guide them on, what are our hero products, what are doing all the heavy lifting at the moment, because sometimes buyers can get sucked into the new shiny stuff, but that may not sell. And the last thing we want is for them to roll out product into their store, it sits on a rack and just collects dust. So we make sure that we guide them in the right way and just say, go for these products. They're really strong. We know that they're going to move. And again, 80-20 rule, you can kind of take risk with 20% and like try those new things and just see if the David Jones customer likes it. But 80% should be the safe play, the stuff that just flies for us, which is like, your black leggings, your flares, your nice tank tops, t-shirts, sweaters, those kind of things.
So is it a different customer between a Style Runner and a David Jones?
Yeah, for sure. I would say the David Jones customer is a little bit more mature. 100%, whereas Style Runner customer definitely younger, because Style Runner is really relying on the sneakers to draw that younger customer in. So, whenever you go into a Style Runner store, you'll see how it's merchandised, and sneakers are like kind of in the middle of the store. So as soon as someone walks in, they're drawn in there, and then they start shopping for their sneakers, and then they build out their entire outfit by going left and right to the clothing. I think left side's probably more leisure wear, right side might be a bit more of the active stuff. And you kind of build out from there. Whereas David Jones, as you know, it's just a huge department store. You don't know what you're going in there for. You might be drawn in to buy a freaking candle and you come out with a pair of jocks.
Yeah, it's true though. It's true.
Yeah.
It's very challenging to get through David Jones pretending that you're going to buy something or pretending at least you're going there to buy one thing.
Yeah.
And but that's a testament to the way they've built that business, right?
100%. It's
huge. You literally cannot walk not one step without almost being bombarded, I guess, with other products in your face.
Lots
like,
of options.
Grab this, grab that. Yeah, it's a big business, and again, to get into it is probably even bigger, particularly local WA brand. You must be stoked.
We're very proud, hey, because you grow up with that, like going into the shopping centre with mum and dad, and you see David Jones, and you go shopping with mum or whatever, and now it's like, shit, we're in there, we're on a rack in there. That's nuts.
That's so good. So, mate, you've built Leelo to. It's 8 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures now.
8 figures,
I bloody lost count.
Yeah.
What's the vision, and how do you continue? Do you keep going and you go to a $1 billion business? Do you get to a point that you go, we are where we are, we're just now to finesse and continue to finesse, or what's the plan?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm still figuring it out, because you can go as big as you want, right? It's how much stress do you want to take on? How big do you want to grow the team? How high do you want to go? I want to take it big for sure, but not at the cost of my mental health, family, lifestyle, and that kind of stuff. I think that's my number one priority, is to build a business that kind of supports my lifestyle, supports the team as well. I think that's a key fundamental to business. You get too greedy and suddenly you're just making all this money, but you're miserable. So I think that's very, very important to me, is to keep control of that, not take on too much, but still be ambitious, keep growing. In our business, if you're not growing, you're dying and you'll fall off because it's so competitive. The next business will just take your market. So got to keep the foot on the gas, but it's just like, how hard do you go? But there's so many different options and so many different pathways that you can go as a founder, where it may not be just your responsibility. You can look at mergers and acquisitions and lean on other partners that have gone to 9 figures, right? And take their experience, their structure, their framework, and kind of plug into that. And that'll allow you to go to that next level without you taking on that crazy amount of stress and breaking shit and disrupting stuff. So that's something I'm looking into as well. Got a few meetings coming up with some pretty strong partners, and there might be a potential fit there. So that's exciting, and it allows Beth and I to get some chips off the table and really kind of solidify our lives as well. But no matter what, Leelo's our baby, other than Kaiden now. We've grown it from a spare bedroom, so we want to hold on to it. We want to still be involved no matter what happens, and it'd be great to get it to a place where Beth and I can just lean into what we're really good at. Beth's amazing at product development, and I'm probably better at the stuff like the business development stuff, the marketing, the numbers game, and just being forward thinking and innovative and spotting gaps in the market and stuff. That's what I love to do. So eventually it'd be amazing to maybe do an M&A with a bigger company that has that structure that maybe I'm not as keen to go into. I've kind of being a little bit anti-corporate myself. I don't really want to have to build layers of management, HR, and all the rest of it. I mean, look at me, I'm in a tank top and sweatpants. That's not my thing, but you can, rely on someone else where it is their thing, right? And I think that's kind of my vision at the moment, but who knows?
Yeah, well, look, you need to know your lane, and at some point when you get the business to a point, as you can appreciate, there's always someone out there that either can do it better or has the ability to take it to the next level. That, as you rightly put, you've got it to where you need to get it to. But importantly, you need a transition to someone that has that same vision and that same purpose.
Yeah.
Right, it's not just a transaction. It's like it's a transaction, but we want to be involved, and this is the reason why.
Yeah.
And then you put some mechanisms in place to protect yourself and the brand, so that if it does take off and not do what they said they were going to do, well, at least you've got some level of protection. And the network and the tools that you've built through this process, I trust that I'm sure you better. Make things work.
It's going to be a whole new challenge, I think, if it does happen. And as you say, it's got to be the right fit. You've got to find a partner that sees eye to eye with what you have, and it's you've got to complement each other. Maybe my scrappy misfit mindset may complement the corporate structure where I do my thing and I can kind of break shit and kind of test things and create growth in that way, and then they've got that stability and structure. And I think that'll work really well. So
agreed.
I'm quite excited to explore that and see what it looks like. But if it doesn't happen, then again, I'm just going to keep doing my thing.
Absolutely.
I think run things lean, keep a small team, and just see where we can take it. I think the sky's the limit at the end of the day. So
what's then one piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring founder of an apparel brand or sportswear brand or activewear brand or whatever brand, and what's a piece of advice that's probably often overlooked?
Yeah, there's a lot of advice that I have with now the 6 years of experience and a lot of hindsight, and I've made all the mistakes in the book. And I think that for a lot of young guys and girls, it's the cool thing to do to start a clothing brand, right? But I think a lot of people don't have the context in the challenges that you're going to take on from going from, a little side hustle, a little hobby, spare bedroom, to getting to that 8-figure level where it's going to support your lifestyle and really, build a life for your family. It gets complicated, right? There's hiring staff, there's managing teams, there's supply chain logistics, marketing. It's a beast. It's a beast. And it's a business that doesn't have a lot of stability. It's constantly evolving and transforming. So you're always on your toes. A lot of businesses are like that, but I think clothing and fashion is at the mercy of trends and social media algorithms and technology and AI. So you've got to be prepared to jump into that world, and it shouldn't be something that you worry about too much in the early days, right? You just jump in and you go day by day, and you don't stare up the mountain and go, fuck, I gotta get to the top of that. It's just one step at a time, but also know the world that you're stepping into. And I think that a lot of business owners that are in the fashion scene that I talk to, they're all in the same boat as me, where they're just like, fuck, I did not know what I was getting myself into, right? But we all love it, you learn to love it, but some people hate it. They'll get 2 or 3 years in and they're just like, this is not what I signed up for. This is too much stress. It's not fun anymore. And at that point they fold and they pack it up, and we've seen that with a lot of Perth-based brands, Australian brands. They've just had to pack it up. And you look at it and you're like, shit, you would have been doing 7 figures. You look like you were doing all right from the outside looking in, but clearly they were just miserable and it was breaking them down. They were losing sleep, stressing out, and fair play. You have to fold at that point if it's just destroying, your life. You want to be building a business that supports your lifestyle and makes you happy and makes you feel fulfilled. So I think for any young person, just understand it's not easy. You're not getting in. You don't start a clothing brand to have an easy life. You're signing up for a pretty challenging thing. It's rewarding, it's fun, it's cool, and you build a bit of a reputation. It is cool. Like you go out into the street and people look at, oh, that's the founder of Leelo and stuff, and props up your ego a little bit or whatever, but they don't see what goes on behind the scenes, the problems you have to solve, the amount of money that you throw at it. Like as I said, we did that little seminar a few weeks back, and obviously we've got Black Friday coming up, and Nav, one of the hosts, he asked me the question, how much are you going to spend on ads on Black Friday? And I was like, bro, like a lot. Like we're looking at about 400 more, like 500 grand in ad spend, right? It's a huge investment over like 12 days, $500,000 on ads. And like right now, like I'm in the lead up to that. The sale starts on the 12th, and I'm doing all this preparation because you're going to invest so much money into it. I've already dropped millions of dollars on inventory. Then I'm going to spend $500,000+ on marketing spend. And if something goes wrong, it's going to sting. It's going to hurt, right? There's a lot of stress, but I've still got to be at peace and, like be able to sleep at night and get through the day. So, and over the years you get better and better. It's like building a muscle, that ability to just deal with the stress and solve the problems. And then you build confidence in your systems and your framework. And luckily 6 years in, I can follow these patterns and see year on year the growth and what we did right, what we did wrong, take the learnings. And then when I'm spending that amount of money, I'm pretty confident. Like there's still these intrusive thoughts of like, what if? Yeah. What if something went wrong? Or what if people just don't buy my shit? It's not going to happen. Yeah, but imagine on the 12th of November, I drop that sale and it's just crickets. I mean, like, oh my God. Right.
It'd make a good podcast, right?
Yeah,
it would make a good story.
It'd be a good talking story. But yeah, it's like you set your alarm the 12th of November and you get up. The sale starts at 7 a.m. AWST and you look at your phone and you're just like, fuck, okay, now the numbers are running up. But you got that target. Like my target in my head for the 12th of November is $1.3 million in one day. It's big money.
Wow.
And there's a lot of pressure. Like I've got I put a lot of pressure on myself to try and hit that target, right? And if it doesn't happen, I will be slightly disappointed, but you still, if it doesn't, then I crack on. And year on year, it's actually exceeded my expectation. I'll set that target for 1.3, 1.5 might come in, right? You never know.
That's for one day.
1.3 million for one day. It's crazy. And, we usually use the method of we go 30% off site wide for 30 minutes to start it off. And in that 30 minutes, we can make probably $1 million in that 30 minutes alone. And then we'll make it probably like around 300,000 or so for the rest of the day. And yeah, it'll be a record breaking day for us. We've already done a $1 million day back in June. So the 1.3 is very doable.
Walk in the park, mate.
Yeah, it's just that compounding effect at the end of the day. You've filled up the marketing funnel. You've got all these first time customers and you're just trying to reconvert them for their second purchase, right? Like I look at my Shopify dashboard, I've got 70,000 customers sitting on their first order and they're waiting for that Black Friday sale, right? And that's where I'll get that second sale.
Okay.
And it might not be all 70,000, but even if it's 25,000 of them, that's a $4 million a month.
Yeah.
So
there
crazy. Mate, you got to know your numbers, right?
You have to. Yeah. Mate, tell me about it. Numbers are everything. Yeah. But they're also an outcome, right? And that's always, been my view, and I'm sure it's probably yours. The number is an outcome of the ad spend, or it's an outcome of probably the supply chain or the product development that Beth put together, or whatever it is. Yeah. That is just an outcome.
It all comes together. One piece falls out, then it won't work. And it's if we're drawing back to the question of what's the advice to the young person starting out, don't worry about what I'm saying right now. I'm 6 years in, right? That's not your first year. Your first year is shaking hands and kissing babies, right? You're just trying to get people to buy your product. Strangers, right? Most people, it's like you get your friends and family to make those first purchases. The challenge is getting the stranger that doesn't know anything about you. If you can get a few of those, then you've proofed the concept, and then you just scale on that, right? It's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. You're just getting these random strangers, and that's business. It's not your friends and family. They're the ones that will support you from the get-go, and they'll get you off the ground. But as soon as you can get to work and find those random strangers to use their hard-earned money to buy your product, you're off to the races, and then it's just staying in the game.
Couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. And whatever it is that you're doing, I probably do want to listen to it because you're absolutely killing it. Yeah. You should be super proud both of what Beth and yourself have built, and I'm sure your baby boy is going to be hopefully listening to this podcast at some point when he's looking back, and I'm interested to obviously continue to follow the business and both yourselves as individuals. And I wish you the absolute best for the upcoming Black Friday sale. If you did male leggings, I'd probably grab myself a set.
You look good in them. Yeah.
But mate, it's been such an insightful podcast yet again, and I just love your authenticity. You're willing and able to come on here and just talk truth, and there's no bullshit, and I do appreciate you being like that, and
Too kind.
and
Gonna make me cry.
and I just hope the listeners do too, mate. So appreciate the time, Sean.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. We'll have to run it back every year, hopefully.
That's
we can
it.
kind of keep checking in and watch the growth, and yeah, it's exciting to see. And yeah, thank you for having me on. Love what you're doing as well, and keep doing the podcast, keep talking to more business owners. I think that Perth needs this. So yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate your support, and until next time, mate.
Good stuff.